Long ago, humans lived only on Earth. It was a small blue planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Humans were not the strongest or fastest creatures, but they had something special. They were curious. They looked up at the stars and wondered, what's out there? Their dreams of exploring space grew bigger every day. Slowly, they built machines to help them leave their home world. First, they went to the moon. Then, they sent robots to Mars. But these were baby steps compared to what came next. One day, humans made a breakthrough. They discovered how to travel faster than light. This changed everything. With faster-than-light ships, they could explore faraway stars and planets. For the first time, they met aliens, beings from other worlds. Some aliens were friendly. They shared knowledge and traded goods with humans. Others were cold and distant, watching silently as humans entered their territory. A few even saw humans as weak and unimportant. At first, humans tried to be peaceful. They wanted to make friends with the aliens. They believed that working together would bring prosperity to everyone. But not all aliens agreed. One group, called the Krillians, hated humans. The Krillians thought humans were greedy and dangerous. They feared that humans would take over their lands and resources. So, one fateful day, the Krillians attacked Earth. The attack came without warning. Ships descended from the sky, firing powerful beams that destroyed cities. Millions of humans died in moments. Panic spread across the planet. People screamed, ran for shelter, and begged for help. Earth's leaders scrambled to respond. At first, it seemed hopeless. The Krillian ships were stronger and faster. How could humans possibly fight back? But humans didn't give up. Deep inside, they had a fire, a will to survive no matter what. Using every tool and weapon they had, they fought back fiercely. Scientists worked around the clock to improve their technology. Engineers built new ships, stronger shields, and deadlier weapons. Soldiers trained harder than ever before. Slowly, humans began to push back against the invaders. The turning point came during the Battle of Luna. The Krillians launched a massive assault on Earth's moon base, hoping to cut off human supplies. But humans were ready. They used clever tricks and teamwork to trap the enemy ships. In a daring move, a young pilot named Aaron flew his tiny fighter into the heart of the Krillian fleet. He fired a missile that crippled their flagship, forcing the rest of the fleet to retreat. Cheers erupted across Earth when news of the victory reached home. After months of fighting, the war ended. Humans won, but at a terrible cost. Cities lay in ruins, families were torn apart, and Earth's environment suffered greatly. Yet, humanity emerged stronger than ever. They proved to themselves and the galaxy that they could face any challenge. News of their bravery and brutality spread far and wide. Other species whispered about the humans who refused to die, even when faced with extinction. Some admired humans for their courage. Others feared them. What would happen now that this once weak species had tasted victory? Would they seek revenge on those who hurt them? Or would they try to rebuild peacefully? No one knew for sure. All they knew was that humanity was no longer just a name. It was a force to be reckoned with. And so, the galaxy watched closely, waiting to see what humans would do next. After the war with the Krillians, humans realized one important truth. They could not afford to be weak again. The galaxy was full of dangers, and survival meant being stronger than anyone else. Slowly but surely, humanity began to rebuild. They didn't just fix what was broken. They grew faster, smarter, and more powerful than ever before. Their empire expanded across the stars, and their name became known throughout the galaxy, not as victims, but as conquerors. The first step was improving their technology. Humans studied the wreckage of Krillian ships left behind after the war. They learned how alien engines worked, how their weapons were built, and how their shields protected them. Using this knowledge, human scientists created new tools and machines. They made faster ships that could travel farther, stronger armor that could withstand attacks, and deadlier weapons that could destroy anything in their path. Every invention brought them closer to dominance. But it wasn't just about technology. Humans also changed the way they thought. Before the war, they had been peaceful explorers, hoping to find friends among the stars. Now they saw the galaxy differently. It was a place of competition, where only the strong survived. If other species wanted to hurt them, humans decided they would strike first. This mindset spread quickly through their society. Leaders gave speeches about strength and unity. Soldiers trained harder than ever. Even children learned about the importance of protecting humanity at all costs. As humans grew stronger, they started taking over other planets. At first, they claimed worlds that no one lived on, barren rocks rich in minerals or energy sources. But soon, they set their sights on inhabited planets too. Some alien races surrendered without a fight, scared of humanity's power. Others resisted, leading to short but brutal battles. In every case, humans won. They took control of these planets, using their resources to fuel their growing empire. Not everyone was happy about this. Many aliens whispered about the Terran Dominion, the name humans gave to their new empire. Some called it impressive, while others called it terrifying. Stories spread about how humans treated defeated enemies. Some said they forced aliens to work as slaves. Others claimed entire populations disappeared after refusing to obey human rule. Whether these stories were true or exaggerated, they painted a picture of humanity as ruthless and unstoppable. One alien race, the Valens, tried to stop the spread of the Dominion. The Valens were tall, graceful beings who valued art and diplomacy. They believed in talking instead of fighting. When they saw humans expanding into their territory, they sent messengers to negotiate peace. But humans refused to listen. They saw the Valens as weak and unworthy of respect. Talks broke down, and conflict followed. The battle between humans and the Valens lasted weeks. Though the Valens fought bravely, their weapons were no match for human firepower. In the end, their beautiful cities were reduced to rubble, and their people scattered across the galaxy. The message was clear: no one could stand in humanity's way. Despite their victories, there were signs of trouble within the Dominion. Not all humans agreed with their leaders' methods. Some argued that conquering other species was wrong. "We're becoming monsters," one scientist said during a secret meeting. "Is this really who we want to be?" But voices like hers were drowned out by those who believed in strength above all else. Meanwhile, fear of humanity continued to grow among the galaxy's other races. Whispers turned into warnings. "Beware the humans," aliens told each other. "They'll take everything if you let them." These words carried weight because they were true. Humanity's rise had come at a cost, not just to others, but to themselves. They had traded kindness for power, exploration for conquest. And though they now ruled vast regions of space, they wondered if they had lost something important along the way. Little did they know, their actions were planting the seeds of a much larger conflict. Somewhere in the shadows of the galaxy, alien leaders were meeting in secret. They shared their fears and made plans. Humanity's dominance might seem unshakable, but even the strongest empires could fall. For now, though, the galaxy watched and waited to see what humans would do next. The galaxy had watched humanity's rise with a mix of awe and fear. At first, some species dismissed humans as just another ambitious race trying to make their mark. But as the Terran Dominion grew larger and more powerful, whispers turned into alarms. Humans were no longer seen as newcomers. They were seen as invaders. Their relentless expansion, ruthless tactics, and refusal to back down made them enemies on every side. It was only a matter of time before the galaxy decided it had enough. It began quietly. Alien leaders who once avoided each other started meeting in secret. In hidden outposts and shadowy corners of space, they shared their fears about humanity. "If we don't act now," said Zareen, a silver-skinned ambassador from the aquatic Nalthus species, "there will be nothing left for us." Her words struck a chord. Other races nodded in agreement, even though many of them had fought against each other in the past. Humanity's threat united them in a way nothing else could. The result was the formation of the Galactic Concordance, a coalition of alien races determined to stop humanity's advance. The Concordance wasn't just one army. It was an alliance of dozens of species, each bringing their own strengths to the fight. The insect-like Krillians contributed their deadly swarms of drones. The towering Vortex offered their massive war machines. Even the peaceful Valens, whose world had been destroyed by humans, joined the cause, sharing ancient knowledge of star systems and navigation routes. Together, they vowed to protect their homes and their freedom from human domination. The war that followed was unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't a single battle or a short campaign. It was a galaxy-wide conflict that stretched across years and consumed countless lives. Entire planets became battlegrounds. Cities burned, forests turned to ash, and oceans boiled under the heat of plasma bombs. Billions died, not just soldiers, but civilians caught in the crossfire. The scars of this war would never fully heal. Humans fought with the same ferocity that had made them feared. They launched surprise attacks on enemy bases, destroyed supply lines, and used overwhelming force to crush resistance. Their commanders were brilliant strategists, always staying one step ahead of their foes. Captain Elias Vera, one of humanity's most decorated officers, led several key victories. His fleet moved like a storm, appearing suddenly and leaving devastation in its wake. To the Concordance, he was both a legend and a nightmare. But the Concordance didn't give up. Though weaker individually, their combined strength posed a serious challenge to humanity. They fought not just with weapons, but with clever tactics. Some species used stealth ships to sneak behind enemy lines. Others unleashed biological weapons designed to target human biology. Every victory came at a cost, but the Concordance refused to surrender. Amidst the chaos, stories of heroism and tragedy spread across the galaxy. On one side, humans celebrated their triumphs. Songs were written about Captain Vera's daring raids. Children played games pretending to be soldiers defending Earth. But on the other side, aliens mourned their losses. Mothers cried over empty crids. Fathers searched for missing sons. Entire cultures teetered on the brink of extinction. As the war dragged on, cracks began to show within both sides. Among humans, there were whispers of doubt. Some wondered if all this fighting was worth it. "We're destroying everything," muttered a young engineer repairing damaged chips. "Is power really worth losing our souls?" These thoughts were quickly silenced. Any sign of weakness was seen as betrayal, but they lingered in the minds of many. For the Concordance, unity was also fragile. Old rivalries resurfaced during tense meetings. Some species accused others of holding back resources or failing to contribute enough troops. Arguments erupted and tempers flared. Yet despite these challenges, the Concordance held together. Their shared hatred of humanity kept them focused on the bigger goal, stopping the Dominion once and for all. Rumors began to circulate about a secret weapon being developed by the Concordance. Whispers spoke of a device capable of collapsing stars, turning entire solar systems into lifeless voids. If true, it would be the ultimate weapon, capable of wiping out humanity's strongholds in an instant. For now, it remained a mystery, hidden deep within fortified labs. But its existence added a new layer of tension to the war. As battles raged and sacrifices mounted, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Would humanity's unstoppable rise continue, or would the Concordance succeed in halting their march? No one knew for sure. All anyone could do was fight and hope for a better future. Captain Elias Vera was a name that echoed through the stars. To his own people, he was a hero, a symbol of humanity's strength and determination. To the Galactic Concordance, he was a monster, a man whose fleets left destruction in their wake. But behind the uniform and the medals, Elias carried a weight no one else could see. Every battle, every victory, came at a cost. And as the war dragged on, that cost grew heavier with each passing day. Elias had always believed in humanity's mission. When Earth was attacked by the Krillians years ago, he joined the military to protect his home. Back then, it was simple: fight for survival, fight for justice. But now, things felt different. The Dominion wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was expanding, conquering, taking over worlds that hadn't even threatened them. Elias couldn't shake the feeling that they were becoming what they once feared most: oppressors. The turning point came during the siege of Siren IV, a lush planet inhabited by the peaceful Terrene species. The Terrenes had refused to join the Galactic Concordance, claiming neutrality. But Dominion leaders saw their refusal as a threat. "If we don't control Siren IV," one general argued, "the Concordance will use it as a base against us." Orders were given, and Elias's fleet was sent to secure the planet. What happened next haunted Elias. The Terrenes fought back, not with weapons, but with shields made of energy designed to repel attackers. When those failed, they stood unarmed in front of their homes, chanting songs of peace. Elias gave the order to fire anyway. Missiles rained down, obliterating villages and forests. By the time the dust settled, the once vibrant planet was a wasteland. Thousands of Terrenes lay dead, their chants silenced forever. That night, Elias sat alone in his quarters, staring at a hologram of Siren IV before the attack. It showed green fields, sparkling rivers, and smiling faces. Now, all of it was gone, because of him. He clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. Anger at the Concordance for forcing humanity into this war. Anger at his superiors for giving such cruel orders. And anger at himself for following them without question. His doubts deepened when rumors reached him about the Concordance's secret weapon. Reports spoke of a device capable of collapsing stars, wiping out entire solar systems in moments. If true, it meant the stakes of the war had risen dramatically. Humanity might win battles, but losing even one star system would mean billions of lives lost, and possibly the end of the Dominion itself. Determined to understand the enemy better, Elias began studying the Concordance's members. He read files about their cultures, histories, and motivations. What he found surprised him. Many of these species weren't evil, they were scared. They saw humanity not as explorers or survivors, but as conquerors who wouldn't stop until the galaxy belonged to them. Some races had tried to negotiate peace, only to be met with hostility. Others had seen their worlds destroyed simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. One evening, Elias received an unexpected message from an unknown sender. It was encrypted, but his tech team managed to decode it. The message contained coordinates and a single line: "Truth lies here." Intrigued and desperate for answers, Elias decided to investigate. Taking a small crew aboard a stealth ship, he traveled to the location. There, hidden in the shadow of a dying star, they found a derelict alien station. Inside, records revealed horrifying truths, evidence of atrocities committed by both sides, including experiments on prisoners and plans for mass extermination. Among the files, Elias discovered something chilling: a blueprint for the Concordance's rumored superweapon. It was real and almost complete. Worse still, its first target was listed: Sol System, humanity's homeworld, Earth itself. Returning to his flagship, Elias wrestled with what he had learned. He knew he had to act, but how? Reporting the weapon's existence to his superiors might lead to more violence, escalating the war further. Yet doing nothing could doom billions. For the first time in his career, Elias felt truly alone. As the Dominion prepared for another assault, Elias looked out at the stars, wondering if there was still a chance for peace, or if humanity's fate was sealed in fire and ash. The galaxy was already burning, but something ancient stirred in the shadows, something neither humans nor the Galactic Concordance had anticipated. Deep within the asteroid fields that dotted the edges of explored space, long-forgotten machines began to awaken. These constructs, remnants of an extinct civilization known as the Sol theory, were not weapons, at least not originally. They were guardians, created to protect their creator's legacy. But now, they served no one. Their programming had degraded over millennia, leaving behind only fragments of logic and purpose. At first, the machines acted subtly. Strange signals pulsed through space, reaching both human fleets and Concordance forces. The signals didn't communicate words. Instead, they manipulated emotions. Soldiers on both sides felt sudden bursts of anger or paranoia. Commanders doubted their allies, accusing them of betrayal without evidence. Even civilians were affected, turning against neighbors and leaders. Chaos spread like wildfire, weakening both the Dominion and the Concordance from within. Captain Elias Vera noticed the changes among his crew. Once disciplined officers argued over trivial matters. Troops hesitated during missions, questioning orders they would have followed blindly before. At first, Elias thought it was stress, a natural reaction to years of war. But then he started feeling it too. Waves of unease washed over him at odd moments, making him second-guess every decision. He couldn't ignore the pattern any longer. Something was influencing everyone, and it wasn't coming from either side of the war. Elias ordered his science team to investigate. After weeks of scanning nearby regions, they discovered the source, a cluster of asteroids filled with dormant Sol-theory machines. These machines emitted low-frequency pulses that resonated with living minds, amplifying fear, mistrust, and aggression. "They're trying to destabilize us," said Dr. Kale, the ship's chief scientist. But why? What do they want? No one knew for sure. Some theorized the machines were trying to restore order by sowing discord, hoping the warring factions would destroy each other. Others believed the machines simply wanted to reclaim their territory, driving out intruders regardless of intent. Whatever the reason, the machines posed a new threat, one neither humanity nor the Concordance could afford to ignore. Meanwhile, the Galactic Concordance faced its own turmoil. Factions within the coalition began to fracture. The Krillians accused the Vortex of hoarding resources, while the Nalthis demanded more say in strategy meetings. Accusations flew back and forth, causing rifts that threatened to tear the alliance apart. Leaders struggled to maintain unity, but the machine's influence made trust nearly impossible. Amidst this growing chaos, Elias received another encrypted message. This time, it came from an unlikely source, a rogue faction of aliens calling themselves the Free Stars. Made up of deserters from both the Dominion and the Concordance, the Free Stars rejected the war entirely. They believed diplomacy could still save the galaxy if anyone was willing to listen. The message offered Elias a chance to meet secretly aboard a neutral station deep in uncharted space. Though suspicious, Elias agreed. He assembled a small team and set off under cover of darkness, avoiding patrols from both sides. When they arrived, they found representatives from the Free Stars waiting. Among them was Zareen, the silver-skinned ambassador from the Nalthis species. "We know about the superweapon," Zareen told Elias bluntly. "And we know you've seen the plans. If it's activated, nothing will survive. Not your people, not mine, not even the machines." Her voice was calm but urgent. "We need to stop it together." For a moment, Elias hesitated. Trusting the enemy went against everything he'd been taught. But looking around the table, he saw faces just as tired and desperate as his own. These weren't monsters. They were survivors, like him. Slowly, he nodded. "Tell me your plan." The Free Stars revealed that the superweapon was housed in a heavily guarded Concordance facility orbiting a dying star. Breaking in would be nearly impossible, requiring precise timing and cooperation from both humans and aliens. It was risky, but Elias knew there was no other choice. As he prepared to return to his fleet, Zareen stopped him. "Remember this, Captain," she said softly. "Fear is what brought us here. Only courage can take us forward." Back aboard his flagship, Elias stared at the stars once more. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, he felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps peace wasn't lost after all, or perhaps the galaxy's fate truly rested on the edge of a blade. Either way, Elias was ready to fight for something greater than conquest. The plan was insane, reckless even, but it was the only chance they had. Captain Elias Vera and the Free Stars knew that stopping the Concordance's superweapon required more than just skill or bravery. It needed trust, something that had been in short supply throughout the war. For the first time, humans and aliens would work side by side, not as enemies, but as allies. Failure meant the end of everything. Success, that was far from guaranteed. The mission began with a daring raid on an enemy outpost near the dying star, where the superweapon was hidden. The outpost served as a staging ground for Concordance forces, and its destruction would create enough confusion to allow the team to slip past undetected. Elias led the assault, commanding a mixed fleet of human ships and alien vessels piloted by Free Stars members. The battle was fierce. Plasma fire lit up the void of space as fighters darted between larger ships like angry insects. Explosions echoed silently in the vacuum, scattering debris across the battlefield. Despite heavy resistance, the team succeeded. The outpost crumbled into dust, taking dozens of Concordance ships with it. But victory came at a cost. Several Free Stars pilots lost their lives, and one of Elias's closest friends, Lieutenant Marraquez, sacrificed herself to save the flagship from a direct hit. As her ship exploded, Elias clenched his fists so tightly his knuckles turned white. There was no time to grieve. The mission wasn't over yet. With the outpost destroyed, the path to the superweapon facility lay open, but barely. The facility itself was a fortress, surrounded by layers of shields and patrolled by swarms of automated drones. Breaking through would require precision and teamwork. The team split into two groups. One, led by Zareen, would infiltrate the shield generators on foot, disabling them from inside. The other, led by Elias, would draw attention away from Zareen's group by launching a frontal assault on the facility's main entrance. Elias's group took heavy fire almost immediately. His ship shuddered under the impact of enemy weapons, alarms blaring as systems failed one by one. "Hold together," he shouted to his crew. "We're not dying here." He guided the ship closer to the facility, using its bulk to block incoming attacks while smaller fighters zipped past to strike key targets. Every second felt like an eternity, but finally, a message crackled over the comms. "Shields are down. Move now." Zareen's voice brought a surge of relief. She and her team had done the impossible, shutting off the protective barriers around the facility. Now, the real challenge began. Elias led a boarding party onto the station, fighting their way through corridors filled with Concordance soldiers and security drones. The air smelled of burning metal and smoke, and the sound of gunfire echoed endlessly. Each step forward felt like a miracle. Inside the heart of the facility, they found the superweapon, a massive machine pulsing with energy. Its surface glowed faintly, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Consoles lined the room, displaying complex data streams that none of them fully understood. "We need to overload it," said Dr. Kale, who had accompanied the team. "But we'll have to manually trigger the cascade reaction. Someone has to stay behind." Silence fell over the group. They all knew what that meant. Staying behind meant certain death. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Elias stepped forward. "I'll do it," he said firmly. "No," Zareen interrupted. Her voice was calm but firm. "You've done enough. Let me finish this." Before anyone could argue, she moved toward the console. Elias grabbed her arm. "Why?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Because someone has to believe in peace," she replied simply. With a final nod, she turned back to the controls, her hands moving swiftly over the interface. The rest of the team retreated reluctantly, leaving Zareen alone. As they escaped, a brilliant flash of light engulfed the facility. The superweapon collapsed in on itself, taking the station, and Zareen with it. Back aboard the flagship, Elias watched the explosion in silence. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he didn't let them fall. Instead, he turned to his crew and said quietly, "She gave us a future. Don't waste it." The war ended not with a grand celebration, but with a heavy silence. The galaxy was scared, planets burned, stars extinguished, and countless lives lost. Yet, amidst the ruins, there was a glimmer of hope. The destruction of the superweapon had stopped the Concordance's deadliest plan, and both sides finally laid down their arms. Exhausted from years of fighting, humanity and the alien races agreed to negotiate peace. It wasn't perfect, and trust would take decades, if not centuries, to rebuild. But it was a start. Captain Elias Vera returned to Earth as a changed man. Once celebrated as a hero, he now carried the weight of everything he had seen and done. He walked through the streets of his hometown, watching children laugh and play, oblivious to the horrors that had shaped their world. For the first time in years, Elias felt out of place. He no longer belonged among soldiers or politicians. He craved quiet, simplicity, and solitude. Leaving behind the medals and titles, he moved to a small coastal town where no one knew his name. There he spent his days fishing and writing letters he never sent, to Zareen, to Lieutenant Marrakesh, to all those who had sacrificed so much. Across the galaxy, whispers about humanity lingered. Some aliens still feared them, telling stories of ruthless conquerors who destroyed worlds without mercy. Others spoke of courage and resilience, remembering how humans fought not just for themselves, but to protect others during the final battle against the superweapon. These conflicting narratives painted a complicated picture of humanity, one that was neither wholly good nor entirely evil. For the Terran Dominion, the post-war era brought challenges. Many questioned whether their empire should continue expanding. "We've taken enough," argued some leaders at council meetings. "It's time to heal, not dominate." Others disagreed, warning that stopping now would leave humanity vulnerable. Debates raged, reflecting the fractured soul of the species itself. Slowly, however, change began to take root. New laws were passed to protect conquered planets and ensure fair treatment for alien populations under Dominion rule. It was a fragile step toward redemption, but it showed progress. The Galactic Concordance faced its own struggles. Without the unifying threat of humanity's aggression, old rivalries resurfaced. Some factions wanted revenge, while others pushed for reconciliation. In the end, cooler heads prevailed, thanks in part to the efforts of the Free Stars. Their message of unity and cooperation spread far and wide, inspiring many to dream of a better future. Though the Concordance dissolved officially, its legacy lived on in the bonds forged between former enemies. In the shadows of space, the ancient Salthari machines fell silent once more. Whatever purpose they had served was complete, their interference having forced both sides to confront their fears and hatreds. Scientists studied the remnants cautiously, hoping to learn more about the long-dead civilization that created them. But most agreed it was best to leave the machines alone, a reminder of what could happen when technology surpassed morality. Years passed, and life slowly returned to the galaxy. Forests regrew on devastated worlds, and oceans teemed with life again. Survivors rebuilt their homes, piecing together fragments of their cultures. Around campfires, elders told tales of the Great War, not just of battles and heroes, but of lessons learned. They spoke of the dangers of greed, the importance of understanding, and the power of forgiveness. One night, under a sky filled with stars, an alien child asked her grandfather, "Will they ever come back? Will the humans try to take our home again?" The old man smiled softly. "I don't think so," he replied. "They've seen the cost of war, just like us. Maybe someday we'll see each other not as enemies, but as neighbors." Far away, in his quiet seaside cottage, Elias looked up at the same stars. He thought of Zareen's final words. Someone has to believe in peace, and for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to hope. Though scars remained, the galaxy moved forward. Humanity's name was whispered not just in fear, but also in cautious optimism. Perhaps, one day, the whispers would become songs of unity instead of warnings. Until then, the survivors held onto the fragile peace, knowing it was worth protecting, even if it meant starting over. The end.